So, hello everybody, welcome to the Groove of War podcast. I've forgotten what number we're on at this point because we missed a few months. I think
Did
this
we
is
ever keep track of numbers?
maybe the idea was we would keep track of the number we'd had that year, but this might be the first or second podcast of this year. Definitely, oh no, it won't be the first, but it's probably the second or third. So,
Yeah, something like that.
but yeah, welcome to the Groove of War podcast. We took a little bit of a break. I was busy with real life stuff, and then we've had a ton of event stuff happening, which has kept me pretty busy as well. So, but things have actually settled down a bit. Like we're on the kind of a precipice of a big event coming up. So, Saikoya was like, "We should do a podcast," and I was like, "Yeah, you're right. We should." Here we are. So, hello, I'm Barrett RTS. I will be your host for tonight. And I do a lot of the tournament admin and the streaming for the Groove of War tournaments and the Groove of War community. Saikoya, do you want
Hi,
to
this is
introduce?
yeah, I can go first. This is ttam. I'm new to the podcast. Kind of new to the competitive scene. Been around for maybe 6 months in Groove of War, but I've been around for the past couple of years.
Yeah, I'm really making waves recently. Spamming the ranked games.
Oh yeah, I think I have over 100 games at this point for the season.
Whoa, that's a lot actually.
Yeah.
I remember. I'm sorry to go on a bit of a tangent, but I remember when we made the rank system, there was like some debate about what the minimum should be, like requirement for like games played, and like we thought 5 would be like a really high amount. Like there was debate about whether oh no it was 10 that was too much. I think we settled on you needed like between 3 or 5 games to actually get a rating or to be like counted. So to hear that someone's at like 100 right now, we're like not even halfway into this season for the ladder. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's quite a bit games. I think I'm playing like at least two a day on average, maybe a little bit more than that.
I'd say more than that.
Yeah, maybe it's more like three or four. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't think you pinged on the live stream channel.
I have not. If someone wants to go and post the thing, then that would be great. Uh, then I'll actually I can do it right now. Saikoya, do your introduction. I'll post it in the live.
Alright, I'm Saikoya? Saikoya, however you want to pronounce it, because I type it a different way on a lot of stuff anyways. Just to mess with people. Um, I've been around the competitive scene for like kind of seen since a little bit before 2.0. I've been pretty invested since. I'm a little bit in staff, kinda, I guess. And yeah, I mean, doing uh usually do decently well in Groove of Wars. So I mean, trying to get better every time.
Yeah, I mean, well, you were talking about prize money, like you were saying, oh, I've earned however much it was, and it was more than you thought, so you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's always nice. I mean, really last tournament I was really more satisfied with my with like how I played rather than how I placed, I guess. This time I'm probably gonna try to focus on just placing as high as I can.
It's a good mindset to have. I mean, well, you're one very close game away from making it to the top 4 last time, so I'm excited to see how well you do this time.
Yeah, I mean, me too. This tournament is gonna be very interesting because, like, a lot of people are gonna go early, and yeah,
Yeah, I mean, well,
there's starting to be too many people that are good at the game, you know?
yeah, I mean, a lot of people are talking about. We can go into like just dive into the subject of Groove War 6, but a lot of people are saying, "Oh, I've got like a lot of these round ones are really like brutal. Like there's a lot of really like good players facing each other early on." But I think that's just a sign of the community has grown to the point where there's a lot of really strong players now. So, this is a 16 person. You could call it an invitational, but like everybody had to qualify, and if you take the 16 best players in the community, like a lot of them are really close. Like you will find the first round of a tournament like that to just be a complete bloodbath.
I mean, I think every round's gonna be a complete bloodbath, right?
I think there's some matchups that are actually like gonna be pretty close and pretty hype. Like I think there were some players that kind of maybe underperformed in the qualifiers, like Sechun who dropped down in the Swiss, and then he had to go through the ladder qualifiers. So he's playing a pretty high seed in Sneaky Dragon in the first round. That should be pretty hype.
Yeah, and there were upsets as well. So even like the people who did qualify through Swiss, like a lot of them came out in second when we were expecting them to come out on top. I mean, just to big you up a bit, like you took down Cleaner Codes, which Cleaner Code's been around for quite a while. He's like a seasoned veteran. He's done well on a bunch of events, and like you're kind of the newcomer coming in and like really just dominating your region. So
Yeah, Cleaner Code. He was definitely a tough opponent. I think in the last round of the PST qualifier rounds, I just kind of cheesed him in the last best of 3 in both my games. I think I won one based off just rushing his CO, and I lost or I won the second one just off of stall tactics. So yeah, I think Cleaner Code was definitely a tough opponent.
Well, I mean, tell me about it.
Aren't you playing in first round, Saikoya?
Yep, that's it.
That should be a pretty good matchup too.
Well, I should be fine because like generally when we practice, like, so we have a history of like he always beats me in TYM, but when we practice live, I generally have the edge. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, live is such a different format to playing asynchronous. So, I mean, that it's funny because like TOIM does influence seeding to some degree, but I think the more we go into like, it's like the ladder system is becoming more and more popular. The more we like see people playing live, the more we see like the differences between those two styles.
Yeah, like, and I guess if TYM was the only format, I think we'd see like way less Wolfar. I think Wolfar is very much a live play commander.
I would agree with that.
Like if your opponent has
you
the
can
time
avoid his
to
lethals.
calculate every single possible Wolfar groove you can have every turn, then you're not pulling a lethal out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think if you take away his like lethal opportunities, then he is just a pretty weak CO in general.
I mean, you can do funny stuff, but I'm probably not gonna pick him just for the funny stuff.
Totally.
I've definitely seen some really cool Wolfar plays though, that like golfing your own golems into your opponent's army and stuff like that. You can do some cool things, but yeah.
I think Mohinder had a pretty cool Wolfar play, at least one or two in the qualifiers. I remember one on Pirate's Curse where he
there was that.
He Wolfar grooved like a dog onto the HQ. It was like a night crit dog and +1 or something to get the HQ kill. That was pretty cool.
I think it was Nightcrit Dragon and then Wolfogger.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, anyway, let's talk Groove of War 6. So, I guess like brief overview of the event. It starts technically tomorrow night. I mean, Tuesday, I always say it's like Monday night, but it's like really it's going to be like Tuesday when it actually starts. Like I don't think anybody's scheduling their games for the first day. People like to we give people the week because they really like to take advantage of having multiple days and having a little bit of time to practice against their opponents. So yeah, it's going to be one round per week and it should last. The main event lasts about 4 weeks, give or take a couple days, and then because of the way we do like the lower bracket, that finals happens after the main event finals, just because of the way that works out. So like the whole thing is 5 weeks, but the finals only takes about 4 weeks to get to there. And then yeah, like it's the top 16 players that came through the qualifiers. We had some issues with how we ran the qualifiers this time around, which have been fixed for the next event already. So, I mean, something people might not realize right now is that this ladder season that we have going on at the moment is the first qualifier for Groove of War 7. So we're already into the point where if you want to qualify for the next event, like if you didn't make this one, you can already like hop in and start playing and get involved, and you will potentially earn your place in the next event. So like people might be seeing the trailer that's about to drop and seeing like the event announcement and being like, oh, I wish I could have signed up for this. Well, you can already play to get entry to the next one, so that is available for people coming in. I think what else. There's $1,000 on the line again, which is really exciting. I think that might go up a little bit because we use Matcherino, and Matcherino we have promo codes, and people like throw money in as well. Like we had a bunch of generous donations last time for people increasing the prize pool. So that could happen again this time, but there's a guaranteed $1,000 on the line. And I'm just trying to think what else. I think that's really it. Unless we want to like really just like dig into the format. Talk about that for a bit.
I think that's about it for Groove of War in general. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, let's talk format then. So it is kind of double elimination, and there's been some discussion in the community about this. I think ttam, you had some thoughts on it. The big thing there though is that we can't run we can't run like a pure double elimination bracket because that takes too long. The event would last, I think it was like at least 8 weeks if we did it that way. And it comes with the problem of what do you do for the grand finals, because historically we proposed that we just did no reset and it was just like the players play a best of 5 and like potentially one person, like the person coming from winner's side has like a 1 game advantage, and we got negative feedback when we proposed doing it that way. And then we did regular double elim one time, and then that ended up taking quite a while because like the game variance is like you could run like a best of 3, and that means the finals could be over in 2 games if the person from winner's side wins both games. Or if you're running best of 3, it could be 6 games, like full sets, bracket reset. So it creates like a huge variance as to like what happens, and we just couldn't find anybody that was like we couldn't find a solution that made everybody happy. And because the event was going to last so long anyway, we just said we're just going to do like single elimination, and then there's kind of a lower bracket where people can play up to 5th place. Last event that only applied for top 8, being able to go through a loser's run, but this time it's open to everybody. So all 16 players can make their run through losers up to 5th. And ttam, I know you've had some thoughts on this. Like, do you want to?
Yeah, I had some thoughts. Like, I guess I'm kind of in the minority probably, but if I had to choose between like this particular format or just a straight up best of three, like I don't feel particularly strong with this, but I would probably prefer just like straight up single limb and just take out the matches for like up to 5th, because I just like from a viewer's perspective and a player's perspective, if you're not playing for first, it's not as interesting, and games may not be as serious as like if the match is counted for first place finish.
Yeah, I get what you mean. And when you run pure double elimination, like even when you're in losers, you can still make the run to first place. Whereas we're kind of like having a cutoff point, and that is a bit awkward. And I do get the I get your perspective. Like I get why that doesn't feel like the best thing, and yeah, like it really is like a you're playing for like a prize that isn't as prominent. Like coming 5th is like not like the best feeling in the world. The main reason we're doing it is because like some other feedback I'd heard is that someone gets like a ridiculously difficult opponent round 1, loses, and then it's like, well, that person then goes on to win the whole thing, and it's like, well, I lost to the person that came first and I played them first round, but I could have made a deeper run if I'd had like an opportunity to play someone who didn't win the whole tournament first round. So it's meant to be kind of a like a bit of a balance against that, to like because like if you're coming like last place, like it feels kind of sucky when you know like, oh well, actually I deserve to be like top 8 or like 5th place or 6th place essentially. But I do get your
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it would have been nice. Like I understand there's like time constraints, but it would have been nice if like you're playing for maybe a little bit more, like for 5th place finish. Like maybe you get uh a or you get a guaranteed spot in the next River of War.
Yeah, I was also thinking that we could potentially have the loser side stop at like top 3, because 3rd and 4th place basically are a guarantee to the next River of War. It's like one of the ways to earn your spot to qualify.
yeah, it could go a bit further, especially because I mean that is the point we're like we're not going to change it now. Like I'm not going to change a tournament mid tournament. I mean, well, we're about to start, but like um that this is like how long have we been a TO for? Like 7 years now. You don't change rule sets in the middle of a tournament if you can avoid it, or like just before it starts. But I do think this is good feedback for the next time, because I do agree that having something to play for, like a guaranteed spot in the next Group of War, or potentially going up to like, it would probably have to be top 3, so like 3rd place. Something like that I think could work. Because at that point, like losers, like the tournament's basically over, like the finals are done, so it's just kind of like extra time that is being dedicated to see who comes, like who qualifies for the next Group of War. I mean, the other possibility is we change how the ladder qualifiers work a bit and have it be that only 3 people go through from ladder qualifiers, and then there's like the 5th place goes through from the previous Group of War. But that actually can create some issues with like if too many people go through from an event that happened like 5 or 6 months beforehand, then that can feel a bit awkward, because then you're losing like the difference in people that have improved drastically over the past however many months. So definitely some good food for thought there. Like, it's definitely something we're going to consider going forward. I just I can't think of the best way of solving that. Well, on the spot. This is
Maybe
some. It needs some more discussion, I think, outside the podcast, and as the community, we need to talk about it and figure out something.
yeah, that definitely makes sense. I guess another alternative I can think of is for me personally, it felt like the Swiss qualifiers were a little too long, or maybe it just there's a lot of matches. Uh, you're playing I think for PST we were playing 5 players and 2 move on or something. So you're playing 5 sets for those 2 spots, but it's just if we just reduce the time dedicated to Swiss qualifiers and just tack that on to maybe make a longer main event, like a double elimination for the main event, and just made it straight up single elim for Swiss qualifiers or something like that, I think that would be, I think, better in my opinion, because you're just kind of any way to reduce the variance of where you seed for the main event, I think would be a vast improvement in my mind.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there are things so the Swiss thing was so that everybody who entered got a guaranteed amount of games, right? So it was part of the main event. So before it was let's have everybody in one event, and we want people to feel like they're not just they're not gonna play once and lose, right? That's not a good feeling. If you're new, you want to have an experience where you get to play a bunch of people, and that was kind of what the Swiss was for, and it's why we took out a bunch of the top players before the Swiss this time, so that it was a lot more people playing closer matches, with the champions essentially from the previous event moving on and not having to compete in that. But I do think Swiss is becoming, I guess, supplanted a bit by the ladder system almost, because I mean, you were saying, I can't remember before the podcast or at the start, but you've played 100 games this season. The ladder system allows people to be a lot more flexible about how much they want to be involved. So if people want to play lots of games and qualify, they can. And if people want to just play the minimum amount of ladder games required to play in a qualifier, then that's an option too. That still gives people the option to just play a whole bunch of games and feel like they're actually competing for something. So that is another possibility, is that we change the main event to a certain degree and make it more double elimination-ish, and then just have it would be longer as a result of that, but the qualifiers would then be less of because Swiss takes a long time, especially because it's not just Swiss, it's then playoffs after Swiss, so a 2-month event, and then maybe focus more on the ladder qualifiers. There's a possibility. It's something we'll look at. I think we won't change it too heavily for the River War 7. So it'll be fairly close to what we have now, but with some improvements. But yeah, it's definitely a thing we can keep in mind going forward.
I definitely like the addition of the different qualifiers to the format. I think the ladder qualifier in general, just it gives more importance to playing ranked matches. I think it kind of, it's unfortunate that that the ladder qualifiers have to play the top seeds the way it currently is. You're basically going to play the toughest opponent if you come through ladder qualifiers. You're going to play either Shu or Zeronix first round. It's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, so the reasoning for that is because as the qualifiers go on, the later qualifiers have weaker, a weaker pool of players, because the top players have already qualified at that point. So
And there's also the fact that since we're on a new schedule, kinda, we we had to have both ladder qualifiers at the same time, basically. So have one bigger, which means that instead of having like an earlier ladder qualifier where you would have stronger people for seeding, and then one where it would be weaker, I guess. We just have both at the same time, so it complicates things.
Yeah, that is another factor as well, is that there's supposed to be a ladder qualifier before Swiss, which, you know, would be more difficult than qualifying through Swiss because all the strong players are in still. So if that was the case, like the seeding would have been like the top 4 from the previous Group of War, then those ladder qualifiers, and then Swiss, and then the last chance qualifiers to get the remaining spots. But yeah, I can definitely, like, there's definitely room to improve. Like, some of this stuff we already have changed, so I'm happy about that. But yeah, I could see a situation where we move away from like the Swiss qualifier entirely, or uh it's like less spots to get through that and we focus more on ladder qualifiers. But yeah, I think that is good feedback regardless. Like, definitely like areas we could look at improving.
I think just talking about like the ranked ladder in general, like if it's okay for me to go into that part, but I think the way it is now, like how Fly Sniper set it up, I think it's honestly so much better than it was, and it seems so much more fun and more meaningful to play ladder matches now.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
don't
Like
I don't think I can make any. I would suggest any changes. Like I think it's perfect the way it is.
the like basically having an automatic matchmaking system that's a little more than just two people going, "Hey, want to play a game now?" It adds a lot of well, I mean, just makes the games more fun, I think. It makes the game in general more fun.
Yeah.
'Cause, like there's a ever since the beginning, like there was always the issue that the only automatic matchmaking we had was quick play, which we like, you know, it's on quick play maps, which got better, but still.
Yeah, like we did make an effort when 2.0 came out because we were working with Chucklefish to get a new map pool for uh double double trouble coming out. And you know, like, one of my maps is in there and is not very good because we had to have those maps done long before Double Trouble released. So we didn't know how they were going to play out. We didn't know what the meta was going to be like. Um, there were things like, you know, Trebs did get a bunch of nerfs, but they're still really strong. So Trebs are legal on a bunch of those quick play maps because we were like, okay, well, you know, maybe Trebs will be weak enough that they'll be fine. And that was not the case whatsoever. So yeah, they have a whole bunch of issues, whereas something like what we have right now, where we can change the ladder, like we could literally change it. I think there's like an hour delay between us like changing a map and actually going into the system, but we could change it multiple times a day if we wanted to. Like, obviously, we're not going to do that because that would be really stupid. But unless there was an issue with the map, but yeah, like we have the ability to update and have a system that is pretty much automatic, with like some manual oversight. So yeah, I think like the current ladder system is honestly really good. I have not been laddering as much as I should. Like, I'm very rusty, so
Hop on in.
I do
I
need
mean,
to.
I've played like very little ranked games actually, because I mean, I guess I've done a lot of like private practice matches, and I've been focusing a lot on theory crafting this tournament, because I feel like theory crafting for the the commanders that weren't the top tier beforehand hasn't really been done, and I'm just, you know, I'm having so much fun doing that. It's like at first I was kind of uh picking weak COs just just for fun, but kind of awakened that thing in me of like, hey, no one does that. Why does no one do that? And I don't know. I'm looking at commanders like completely differently than I was at the end of Guild of War 5.
Well, you could still pick those commanders in ranked games.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I did like I did play a lot of American ranked.
One
I
thing.
mean,
Oh, sorry.
okay, go on.
I was gonna say one thing that is like an improvement to the bot that's been worked on right now. It might be done in time for round one. Especially if people wait a couple days to play their first game. I think it'll be done by then. There's an update to the bot, which means the bot can handle bans now. So no more event referees involved. Well, it would go. All the bot stuff would go into a private channel that like myself and a couple of other admins would have access to. But that wouldn't be competitors because I don't compete in tournaments. But that will help a lot, and that could then be applied to the ladder system as well. So we could say, hey, like you can now use the tournament format for ladder matches, because I think that's the one thing that's missing right now is that people can basically play whatever they want as far as rule sets go in ladder matches. Like there are like official rules, but if two players were like, actually, do you want to just play on Ashenbrook because we feel like it, and we'll play Ryota versus Ryota because like there's nothing stopping us, then like we can't stop players doing that. But I think if we give players the tools, like say a ranked bot that handles the bans as well, then I think that is like definitely an improvement that could be made there.
Wait, so you're saying that the bot will just be a tool so players can use outside of ranked, or
Oh,
would
so
it like
they could use it for ranked. So let's say like you wanted to, let's say we said, okay, now there are 2 blind bans in ranked matches as well. Then the bot would be able to handle that and people could use it for ranked matches.
It's like if you wanna, like we're always saying, if you wanna do your own sides tournament, then that's really cool. And I mean, you could use the bot for that as well.
Yeah, or even just like people want to play friendlies, or people want to like play a mod that has different commanders, for example. Like the bot should be able to handle that. Like we're not, the way I envisioned it was that it's so simple that it's basically just like you can type anything into that ban section, like in the DM when you like message the bot with your bans, and it will like pass that on to your opponent when they also type their bans. So you could,
okay, that's interesting. So
yeah,
so what's there's going to be like a command so it knows it's getting ban information.
yeah. So there's I think it's IBAN is the command. Um, so oh yeah, it starts by you type IBAN in like in the bot channel, and then tag your opponent on Discord with the after it, and then it DMs both players, asks them for bans. You type IBAN, whatever you want to type into that text. You could put anything really. You could put bananas or whatever. And
Sledge.
you could put sledge. Oh yeah, because it also means that the amount of people who like can't spell commander names in this game is pretty high. So when I came up with this and was talking to Fly Sniper about it, I was like, don't make it require people to have to spell anything correctly. Like just make it completely open to whatever. So yeah, you type the IBAN thing, and then in the DM after the bot messages you, and then both players do that, and then it waits for both players to do their message, and then it sends them at the same time. So it's a
And then it
much
also sends it to the tournament admin as well, or
yeah. So
or
it
like
posts all of that information into there's a text channel we have.
Spreadsheet.
oh nice.
Yeah, I mean we then put it into a spreadsheet after if it's relevant. But we could do something like have complete ban. Like if we did that, we could have complete ban information for the entire season, which would be like actually really useful information to have. So
Is it gonna like say what the specific bans are for each player, or is it just gonna do it how you guys are doing it?
well, the way we do it right now is I have all of that information privately, and then I only release like the kind of like combined info, if you want to put it that way. But yeah, like it would mean that we would have like a complete list of like all of the bans by every player that's used the bot. It'd be pretty great, honestly, to have. And then we can,
That would be really cool.
yeah, and then we'll have like real stats because like, right now we're working off of like 50 games or whatever that happened in an event, or like 100 maybe. It's like, here's the ban information for 100 games. Like, let's see, like if what we can glean from this. And sometimes it's very obvious things like Caesar or Ragnar or Koji being like at the top. Like it's pretty easy to tell that information quite quickly. But then you get into like kind of weird territory where I think it's like Wolfar has like a really high ban and pick rate, but I don't think anybody would really seriously say that Wolfar is like one of the best commanders in the game. I think it just comes down to people not liking to play against him as much.
Yeah, I know I do that sometimes.
Yeah, I think
But
I
I don't put
banned
Wolfar that high.
like once.
But he has a high ban rate. It's just like there has to be like a level of like how do you use that information in a kind of sensible way. But yeah, so yeah, hopefully we'll have a bot that like allows all of this stuff to be automated, and we make more improvements. Like we could reach a point where like the map is always random as well in ranked. I guess we'd have to see how the players feel about that, but because we're also moving into things like, I guess we can go into maps in a moment, but I do want to do one last point about the format. Is we did 2 blind bans this event, and we've done it for like the past like 5 months, or 4 months, I guess. We're in May. I get confused as to like how long it's been since the last Groove of War, but we'll say 4 months. The last 4 months we've had 2 blind bans per player and a bunch of us like set bans as well. Like how do both of you feel about like that format right now?
I personally, I like it a lot. I like that. I think any less than 2 would make it a lot less interesting. And I mean, with 2 bans, you can kind of ban like one type of CO that you don't want to play. Like if you want to ban like 2 defensive COs, you can do that. But I mean, you can't do that with just 1 ban. And I think the ones that are auto banned, like before that auto banned, Ryota, Caesar, Ragnar Koji, like I would sort of agree that they are on a higher power level. So just taking those out, it is a bit of more of an even playing field amongst the rest.
Yeah, I think that beforehand it was really like you needed basically if you have a good Ragnar, Koji, or Caesar, you would kind of force the opponent into having less bans, I guess, which kind of was not super fun, I guess. And then when both people are like, you're gonna ban it, right? And then both are unhappy because it didn't get banned. It was a little weird, but I think right now, the default bans like Ragnar, Koji, Caesar, Ryota they are really like they kind of change the way you have to play the game because of how impactful their grooves are. It really is like, I guess, a kill for their commander you could say it's worth over 500 gold, which is absolutely crazy. Um, and I think like the only way to deal with that properly would have to be making COs start in like very convoluted, heavy terrain so that they only reach front on like turn 8 minimum. But that would be like unfun for like everyone, I think. So I think it's better to just ban them. And right now with the 2 blind bans, I think it's still really, really fun because um, I do a lot of targeted bans at players, and they also do targeted bans against me. So that means it really like keeps the commander that people play. Uh, like you basically can't just play 2 commanders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely like that too because I know there are certain players that don't have like a wide CO pool. So if you limit the bans to just one, then it's not as detrimental. But you can really apply some targeted bans for those people that have limited pools.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm gonna make a joke. You can tell how serious someone is by how willing they're how the willingness they have to ban Sedge against Sedge on like uh
Sedge is pretty strong though. I mean, like the CO Sedge is pretty strong.
yeah,
So
I mean
I don't think it's unreasonable to ban Sedge, especially
yeah.
against Sedge.
I mean I entered Groove of War 5 and played Sedge in one. Definitely a very strong commander. People
I
in the
also
chat.
like
Sorry.
I also have like a different theory too. Just like I think when you only or when you take out like the COs that have like the most impactful grooves, I personally think the skill level, like the skill ceiling, is a little higher because I think well actually I'm not really sure, but maybe you guys have a perspective on it. But I think there's just more control for the winning player if CO grooves are less impactful in general.
uh, uh, I think I can see basically it's like you're talking about slow commanders in general, right? Because like if you fall behind but you have a good groove, you can come back. Uh, but I mean, I think the issue
Not
with the
necessarily, because like
okay,
there you can have like Sigrid and Elodie who are I mean Elodie who's slow, but there's
yeah,
a good amount of counterplay when you play Elodie. But like if you're playing against a Ragna or a Caesar, it's kind of difficult to play against those guys.
yeah. I guess like my main issue with the previous top tiers was that if you play a Ragna or a Caesar mirror, it's a it's a groove race for like whoever gets it first, and then if both players get it at the same time, then it's it the game basically becomes a puzzle of how much you can get away with without getting killed by the groove. And in the Koji mirror, it's also a groove race, but with the added like there's bombs everywhere and like witches and like it's very it basically changes the fundamentals of the game a lot to be playing these mirrors, which you know it's not that fun because once you've seen like your 5th Caesar mirror, you're like, oh, I wonder who's gonna win when this one got groove first, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with
Uh,
that. It's just like yeah, race to whoever gets grooved first is just not fun to play.
Yeah, I guess like there's this thing about Wargroove where you have this like one piece on the board that is really vulnerable. Like if it dies, it's dead. And the moment like let's say Ragda gets groove, as soon as your commander is anywhere near range of Ragna's groove, you're effectively playing that piece of your army with like less health. You just have to assume that it's gonna take like was it like 20% damage from Ragnar groove, something like that. At the least. and you throw in a witch hex in there as well, and it's like, oh well, suddenly I've got this unit that has like effectively somewhere between like 60 and 70 health. So my opponent needs to land a night crit and another unit hits it or something like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, it then you're then promoted to play very defensively with that, because it's like, well, I can't put my commander anywhere near Ragna, like anywhere near her, like 10 squares away, or possibly actually, what is Ragna's range? Like
I think her jumping range is 5.
the impact. So that's
She
like,
moves 4, so
yeah, and
the
then
impact is like, I think
3.
it's 3, yeah.
So she's got 12 range on her groove.
Yeah, that's just insane.
Yeah, like
I mean,
she,
it's not even just the commander. It's like, if your army is in range of her army, she kills everything, and that's about it.
You
yeah,
can threaten like both fronts, both sides
Like,
of the map.
the only strategy that's, again, when playing against Ragna, that's basically not win harder or don't let her get groove, is uh, basically you have your own Ragna or Koji groove, and then you make so much lethal potential that if she jumps in, she dies basically. But it's still super hard to do, and it's still not fun to play because you're the one who has to do the balancing act. Ragna just has to press one button.
yeah, and I mean, I think there are ways that could be fixed, but I mean, we're not getting balance changes for this game, as far as I'm aware. So we got to make we got to make do with what we have, and I think in this case it's like we just like Ragnar had to go. Koji, I feel like could work if the maps were bigger. I guess like that's a good segue into the next topic, but uh, Koji feels like he could be okay if like you were
uh,
playing on like a
I don't
format where
think
like
so.
there's more units, but
I don't think so. It's just, I think if you have a bigger map, then it's harder to control his groove, which means he gets more bombs out.
yeah, that's also true. I mean, I was more thinking like if there was more production and like but I guess like everybody would be nerfed by the same amount if like the armies became the bigger focus. So that was the line of thinking anyway, was that like you make the game more about like bigger army control on a larger map, and like that makes the commanders like less significant by themselves. But there are balance issues with having large armies and large amounts of income, which makes commanders even weaker. End up with things like witch spam and dragons, being able to get multiple dragons and a bunch of witches, and you can kind of punch through anything and kill a commander. So
Aside from Koji, I know I suggested earlier, like after the Swiss qualifiers are done, where it's like maybe consider adding Valder to the top or the auto bans. But after seeing the pool of like what the Groove War 6 map pool is, I would say that Balder, like looking at this pool, is just not as scary as like he's still really scary, but he's not as scary as he was. Um, so I would take that my opinion back on adding Volder to the auto ban. Just I guess depending on what the map pool is.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's the thing about having a commander ban system in general, is like if there's a couple maps Folder's really strong on, then he just gets banned on those maps. Whereas, um, if like the whole map pool is something he's way too good on, then it becomes a problem. But I think looking at maps which like a map pool where Valder would need to be auto banned, like that's probably more an issue with the map pool in general. Like it probably has some bigger issues than just Valder compared to this map pool. And should we just go into this map pool, because like we're about 50 minutes
Yeah,
in.
sure.
I need to go
Let's
relatively soon.
stop being on tangents like we usually do.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess like let's start with the maps that we were keeping from previous events that haven't changed. So open season version 1.91. That is kind of a classic map at this point. Been around quite a while. Like, how do you both feel about open season? I'll start with you, Saikoya.
Open season is like, it's really funny because we're coming back to the very beginning of, like, the opening meta has shifted from, like, at first we were doing the capturing economy aggressively in front of the commander. Then people realized that that would just give groove, especially when like Ragna and Koji were in the pool. You wouldn't want to do that, so that people figured that out. And the opening basically became, don't capture the wrong villages. But now that these commanders are gone, there's, in some matchups you actually go back to that old opening, and I find that really funny. I really like that map. I think every commander works on that map, honestly. Um, every commander I can think of, actually. Every single one of them has a can have either a gimmick or a good interaction, and then a good transition into later. Um, I think it's just a solid map where like you can have a lot of variance in the opening, and you can have a lot of variance in the way you play the later stages of the game too. And also, I think it's a map where commander matchups can really um, not necessarily shine, but take their importance, I guess. Where like, for example, you could like play Emmerich or Mercia to counter Vesper, and there's stuff like that you can do, which is really good.
Yeah, I like open season as well too. And I think it gives like a different flavor. The fact that it does have that rifle,
Oh yeah, it has a
one
rifle.
single rifle, it keeps you on edge because you always have to watch out for like if it is my soldiers in range of rifle, or and it promotes building a lot of a different unit composition. Like you don't want pike, you don't want to be pike heavy. You build a lot of knights, dogs, maybe even some harpies sometime. Um, yeah, it's just, I mean, and it's just like it's always kind of a tense map to play on because the center is very like if you put your CO near the center, you're very vulnerable to lethals, especially with like the type of COs people like to pick on that map in general. So yeah, I really like the flavor that it brings in relation to like different maps.
Yep. Oh, and a tip for people that have trouble breaking through armies to get to the HQ. uh, like, if you have trouble attacking vertically into the HQ, you can try horizontally, and that works really well because it's wider and there's less terrain to defend.
I also like how it's just like it feels like the only map where Nuru is actually kind of a viable pick because there's like multiple things that her groove is useful for on that map, and it's yeah, it's just like I feel like on any other map, her groove is kind of a detriment, but on open season it's kind of good.
Ooh, that's an interesting opinion. I feel like I don't know. I feel like there's a couple maps in this pool that Nuru is good on. But, we can get to those.
I think open season is probably Nervy's best map. Uh,
I guess
can't
like
think too much of like another map.
so. I guess like one thing Nuru can do really well in open season is that she can snipe the rifle.
Yeah,
Like
with the
she can,
dog.
yeah, she can spawn a dog and kill the rifle, and that's a huge deal. So
Yeah, with huge range, like you got the +1, or it was like 5+1 or something. Is that the range or?
4+1, then another 5 dog because yeah, Nuru
Yep.
walks 4,
Another
spawns a dog.
6 actually.
Oh, right, and Nura's movement on top of that. Yeah, Yeah, it's like crazy long range to snipe the rifle.
Yeah, it is pretty good. All right, so I guess we'll go into a map. So I guess like I'm gonna say another map I think Nuru's good on. I actually think she's good on Triton. And my
Yeah, I
reasoning
mean, oh, go on. You can go first.
my reasoning for that is because Triton is a map where you don't always feel like having like if you have that extra production available, I think that can actually really tip the scales on Triton because it completely lacks all of those power units. So it's all about like how you use like knights and below effectively. And I think she can do interesting things in that kind of situation where she could spawn a spear at the right time to take down a knight. And because production is so limited, at least from where I feel it is, that becomes like a big deal because then you're like up an extra unit on top of being able to spawn like because cheap units are really effective on that map because like if you spawn a spear on Triton, your opponent might have a golem and they just roast it, right? Or and like your spear does very little, but if you spawn a spear and your opponent only can have like knights as the best option, then yeah, I think that that is actually just like a really strong way to play. But like, how do you both feel about treating like ttam? Let's go with you this time.
Like Triton in general, or Nuru
Treating in
on
general.
Triton?
Yep.
I really like Triton. I think like open season, it gives a different flavor to the map pool. Because you obviously can't buy units over 600 gold. So you're not going to see golems, you're not going to see dragons, and the win condition feels like totally different. Where if you get an income lead, instead of just insta buying dragon or golem, you're gonna buy like thieves or harpies, like more cost inefficient units, but you're just gonna swarm your enemy with more stuff. And I would also agree that Neuro, for that reason, is pretty good on that map. I didn't think of this earlier until you pointed out, but like one thing that Neuro is not very good at is dealing with golems. And since golems are banned, and it's okay to build cost efficient units, I think Neuro is definitely pretty good. And the HQ is pretty vulnerable uh, to lethals as well, which Neuro is good at as well.
Yeah, that's true. Alright, Saikoya.
I think Triton is interesting and all, but I do feel that having a limit, that not having every unit available kind of hurts like which commanders are viable on it, I guess. I really like when we played on the version of Triton with like these units unbanned, it felt pretty good to play Mercia on it. But for example, I wouldn't probably not play Mercia on the current version. There's also stuff like Dark Mercia or Elodie and other commanders that kind of need the tech units backing them up for the groove to be effective that aren't really viable. So I think it's fine because it's just one map in the pool, but it's not my favorite in the pool.
That's fair. And it's funny because I never intended Triton to be a super serious tournament map. It's kind of it's that monkey's paw curse of I always wanted a map in Groove of War, but the map I made that wasn't intended to be in it was the one that got picked. But people like it, and I guess like I'm just gonna have to cope with that somehow. But yeah, it is funny that this map that was designed to be kind of just like this like beginner friendly entry to like playing competitive. It's all about like how well you can use like low cost units. Yeah, it's funny that like that seemingly becomes so popular. So
I honestly wouldn't call it beginner friendly. I think it's like one of the hardest
No,
maps to play on, honestly.
it's not very beginner friendly because I think the most important part of Triton is how well you transition from early game to mid game and from mid game to late game with your army comps, and that's so difficult to nail down.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Triton has failed in every way that I intended it to succeed, and has succeeded in every way I intended it not to do its job. So, but whatever.
Yeah.
Like if it works, it works. So, there is a version of Triton that has more units available, and it also has some flagstone to compensate for dragons being available, and what is quite a small map. Like thinking about it,
With a lot of road.
with a lot of roads. That is true. So I guess like we're gonna see how it plays out. I'm really looking forward to it because I played it a bit and I enjoyed it, but I'm very interested to see what the meta is on it right now. This is gonna be like very exciting for me as a map maker. So
I hope you're excited for the casting of it, because like the games on that map could run pretty long.
Yeah.
I mean that's fine. Like I mean, it's funny because I don't know if either of you are around for like the Groove of War 3 days when like we would cast games that would be like 2.5 hours long. So
Oh, I wasn't.
yeah. So yeah, like
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
I'm used to doing that. Like it's been a while. And those were turn timer games as opposed to chess timers. So like we could run into some stuff where I have to talk about nothing for 20 minutes because someone's taking their time on one turn, but I'm just want to see how it plays out. It does have a longer timer, and that is actually something we didn't really touch on in the format section, but I'll bring it up now. 4 of the maps in this map pool are 60-minute chess timers. And it's just because they happen to either have a bit of a slower meta or they're just a bit larger in general. It's just kind of just
I
realizing.
like that.
Yeah, I think generally we don't really want to go like higher than that, and also like we're a bit wary about people scheduling because we are asking people to put 2 hours aside per game effectively, but I think
Yeah.
it's
Well,
okay.
oh, sorry. Go on.
I was gonna say I think it's okay. Like,
Yeah. I like it because it benefits me more, because I'm kind of a slower player, and like
Yeah, I
I
was
know on
gonna
a lot of
say.
maps I time out pretty frequently, so more time the better for me.
I guess we're really wanting Shu not to win again.
imagine that's one of the like we were joking about a bingo card, or I can't remember which event it was actually.
I think it was Groove of War 5.
Okay, I guess that's the bingo card entry for Groove of War 6 is Chew times someone out on a 60-minute map. I guess would be one of them.
You know it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gonna happen.
Yeah. But actually I think timeouts, so people are generally more okay with them now. Especially I mean they were honestly looking back 30 minutes wasn't great. But we didn't have a 45-minute timer at that point, so we were literally working with what we had. 45 feels okay on like smaller-ish maps, and I guess like the kind of larger, like almost like becoming the standard meta of maps now is like the 1 hour timer. I don't think we'd ever go bigger than that though.
Yeah, I think
Probably not for a big event.
Yeah, and even playing like casual matches, like ranked matches, it feels like a big part of your day is going into a match if it's like longer than 60.
Yeah.
And I once almost like fell asleep playing against Hiniban because he was playing too slowly to my liking, and I was like, and
You
then I
probably haven't
lost.
played me enough on ranked.
I think in ranked it's fine because there's actually stakes. It was a casual game, so I was kind of like, I could go do something on the side, you know.
I actually, and just a little bit of a tangent. I would actually really like to play async ranked matches. I think that is an option. You're allowed to do that.
Yeah, you're allowed to.
So maybe that's something I should be doing. Because one of my favorite things when I was playing in Test Your Metal was waking up and playing a turn of all my games while I had breakfast or while I was checking emails or something, and then doing more productive things afterwards. I kind of missed that, so maybe I'll bring that back. I definitely would like to play some more async stuff. But all right, let's keep this going. So the general consensus seems to be that Treating is quite a good map, but we would never do more than one of what Treating is in a
Yeah,
map pool.
also, Triton kind of feels like you have to win by army wipe. Because, like, even if you have an econ lead, because you can't get the big units, you still need to, like, slowly grind away at the army. Which, I mean, it's easier because you have the lead, but you still have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult to come up with a balance of how open the stronghold should be because wagons and roads are a thing. So, like, when I was making it, I didn't want to put the stronghold somewhere where it could just get cheesed, but I also didn't want it to be super vulnerable. Like, I didn't want it to be too safe either. So I think it's kind of in the right place, but we'll see. People are gonna play this tournament, and I'll get feedback and make changes if I need to. I mean, alternatively, like I released I think it's 2.1 is the latest version that has all units. If people really like 2.1, then it works out. Also, it is proof that you can remake an older map because it's based off Tonton Oasis. That was like the kind of base map I used for it. It shows that is a thing that you can do. So, all right, let's go into another
Very
map.
true.
Ouroboros, and this is I believe this has been used in a previous event like this version. I know there was an earlier version of Ouroboros.
Yeah, that was an industrial with, like, an opening thief and all.
Yeah. This is the
Yeah.
more recent version.
I'm so proud of myself on Ouroboros for having discovered the Sigrid strat.
You think we're gonna see Sigrid get banned?
I think
Very possible.
I think he's like maybe top 2 or 3 commanders you can pick on that map.
Yeah, she's definitely very strong. And if you play against it, you have to play like differently than you normally would. So
Yeah.
I think we very well could see Sigrid bans on Ouroboros.
Basically, Sigrid forces an HQ rush, and Sigrid is also pretty good at an HQ rush.
Yeah, that because typically you would defend with a golem or 2 golems or dragon or whatever, some high cost unit that can can tango with a commander, and she is incredibly good at making maps that like almost are base race maps like into a base race map because of that. Like she will just eat the golem or the dragon, and suddenly like you can just smash through the remaining defense.
Yeah, a cleaner code and I in our match, like we played Sigrid Mirrors, and I know you guys when you commentated, you said something like, "Oh, it's not like maybe they're not playing totally serious because it's just a placement match." But honestly, like at least my thinking was Sigrid was my best option based off the commander bans going into that match. So that was a serious pick for me.
Right. I mean, at that time, like I wasn't quite aware of how good Sigrid was in that situation, so that was like me having a big eye-opening moment. Where I was like, oh, maybe this is like them kind of like joking around, but then suddenly like you're playing, I see how the game plays out, and I'm like, oh, this is actually super strong. I'm gonna need to keep an eye out
Yeah,
for this in the future.
but then you both played defensively, and I was like, no.
Well,
I
kinda.
mean,
I mean, I had to like I was losing the base race, and then
yeah,
I
I
had to bring
guess.
my Sigrid back, or else my HQ would just die.
Yeah,
Cleaner Code was playing pretty aggressively, I thought.
I guess. I guess at the ending you had like no real way to engage. Because
Yeah,
like
I guess he played a little different than you did versus Stargin, where like you brought Sigrid with a few knights,
3
which really
nights.
puts HQ pressure.
I'm really interested to see how it plays out. Like, I'm curious to see what the bans are going to be. Like, if we're going to see a bunch of Sigrid bans, or if we're going to see, yeah, like, if people are going to come up with like counterplay to the Sigrid rush. Like, is there like a commander that's like secretly really good at defending that? That is going to be a factor. That'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
the meta for Ouroboros is not solved yet. I still see people opening up, like doing the aggressive CO opening, and I still see people doing like the one where you back capture with the CO, the racks. So there still seems to be a lot of variability in just like the opening alone. So I'm kind of curious to see how that will develop.
yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, you saying that just reminded me of a point about the Groove of War event. Like, wanted to keep it shorter was because it meant the maps didn't have to hold up as long over time. Um, that was like one of the other fears, was that if an event is too long, maps can get solved and that becomes a problem. But that's a different topic for another time. But it was like a thing that you just reminded me of.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Kind of the reason Dendritic isn't in events anymore.
Yeah, because yeah. I want Dan Runaway can be in the next ladder pool. I'll make it happen.
I'm excited to try it.
It's really fun, like, and it was a serious consideration as to like whether that would be the map that gets played or the current version of Dendritic. Um, so maybe I'll push and have it in the next ladder. Cool. But anyway, back to these maps that we have in this event. So Thieves' Den. This has been updated a little bit. This is probably the most complicated map in terms of what units you can buy from what production. I'm looking at the map wide. So trebuchets are banned map wide, and then you've got like barracks by the gate cannot produce wagon or ballista. Tower by the gate can only produce harpies. Tower in the water cannot produce harpies. So there's a bunch of very specific bans to a bunch of different production facilities.
Yeah, Thieves' Den is interesting because to me, like when the way I visualize Thieves' Den is like there's very distinct phases in the map when you're playing. Like there's like the capture phase where there's a lot of like eco harass. There's a lot of decapping that goes on early, and then it kind of transitions into like a lot of late game tech units, and maybe even some rifles come into play pretty often. Um, I think you don't really get that as much with some other maps where you have like very distinct phases
I
uh,
haven't actually
in the
seen a
gameplay.
single rifle in my Thieves game, Thieves Den games.
That is a point, actually. It is a map you can build rifles on. I think it's the only map in the pool that
Yeah,
you can
you
do
have
that.
to break a gate to do that.
Or you could play Tenri, or like actually Nuru can potentially do it. So
That's true, but it is expensive. Neuro buys it's like 1,500. I'm not sure if it's
Yeah,
worth it at that point.
yeah, I guess like there could be a really sick Tenri play with a rifle,
I
but
think I like Thieves Den because like if you have like one concept to kind of uh summarize it up, it's that the core the most important thing I guess to Thieves Den is playing around the terrain, and I really like that. Like you need to play around. There's two sides with like a sort of line of terrain and how well you can play around that, and around the center with weak terrain is kind of the most important part of the map, I feel.
I kind of like it and I kind of don't like it because like the center, there's like a lot of beach tiles, so it makes it like not strong to like sit in the center for a long time, but it also makes it really hard to push, like make a really big push. So a lot of my games have just been really stalematey, where we're just kind of both staring at each other. We have this defensive wall. Um, so yeah, I guess like pros and cons there.
Yeah, I guess that can happen. Yeah, you don't really want to fight in the center, but the sides are really about like how well you use the terrain and the villages to your advantage.
I think, I mean, with the new version too, like the new version added a harpy only tower, and I'm not really sure what the thought process was there, but the after playing the new version, it just feels like it's even harder to push now. Like especially on that side where the harpy tower is, like you can't really push early into that section.
I think
So
it's
like
just
games go longer.
Warg kind of just takes the memeing around of the competitive players a little too seriously.
I will say that some of my favorite moments in tournament, like there's been some great moments on Thieves Den though. Like, was it? I think it was a game that Ash was in. There was like a Tenry groove, and it grooved the golem into the corner. So
Yeah,
I
I
saw
think
that.
yeah, Spottius did that, I think, against Ash. I don't
that
know if it
was
was good or not, but it was pretty funny.
it was very funny. That was hilarious. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see. It's a map that has, I think, how people explore getting rifles into the map is going to be interesting. But
I'm exploring more getting a thief into the enemy's hideout.
oh, that's
I don't think
actually a
that's
good point.
good though. That's like so far away.
Yeah, but like what you only need to make it to the gate and then they can never use thieves again.
Like stealing the enemy, or just like
Yeah,
getting, because you
just
still need
goes.
to get a soldier in there too
No, you
to
just need
cap
to
it.
steal away from it. Then they have
Oh,
no
just to
hideout
prevent
anymore.
them. Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Like if they have a thief with money on their way there and you steal from that, they can't deposit.
That is true. I'm curious to see if that will happen, but I have my doubts.
I guess we'll find out. And I guess I'm excited to see if people do anything with it. Of
I
course, you
think it's
know it.
more
Oh, sorry.
it's more like if your thief doesn't have any good targets, you can just walk it over there because you can't. It's impossible to prevent that. It takes a while, but if you have no better option, it's there.
Yeah, that is true. I guess we'll see. I mean, all of these maps are completely optional to play on as well. There's two map bans as well, so I believe it's one map ban for the best of 5, but there's only a couple of sets that are like that. Actually, it might even just be the finals that are best of 5 and everything else best of 3. But we'll find out. We'll see if people want to play on it and what they do. Okay, so going into the last two maps, we're gonna go with an updated one, which is Headland to Deadland 1.8. It was originally 1.7, but there was like a small change that happened to one of the villages. I think it had like a starting health change.
Yeah. So basically, it puts the it changes what does a coin flip basically. Which is kind of like you'll have one or the other. Like either a sword will have a coin flip or a harpy will have a coin flip. Which I mean, it brings some weird situation. But I think Headland overall, from all the games I've played, it's probably my favorite in the pool so far. Uh, we'll see if like
Why is that?
Thieves then, because it's kind of like the feeling I had with Thieves then at the beginning before we kind of solved the map, I guess. Is like you can just make so many strats that from the beginning to the end of the game, there's so many different strats you can pull off. Um, I feel like there's a lot of deceptive stuffs too on the map. Like the center looks kind of. At first, the HQ looks quite safe, and the center looks quite tight, but it's actually very open. Like, the first test game I did against Barrett, I was like, yeah, I'm thinking the HQ is a little too safe, perhaps. Then he says, actually, if you attack my HQ now, I can't defend it.
Yeah, I realized that, like, as you said it, I was like, hang on a moment, like, my army is completely out of position. You can just kill me right now.
Yeah, it's got all that. There's a lot of economy fighting on the sides. There's also like center control that's important, and then there's there's a lot of ways to overextend and not do what you're meant to. I think Ballista has some potential on that map. There's a lot of stuff going on. And Thief is
Yeah.
looking decent.
I just want to
I
say
haven't
is,
tried the.
I just want to say, like, I actually really like the older version of Headland, but I recognize it did have problems, and this feels like a version of that that doesn't have those problems. So it's taken a map I already liked and made it, like, and kind of just smoothed out the issues with it, and I'm looking forward to it a lot because of that.
I've only played it maybe like 5 times now, but I've been enjoying it a lot too. It doesn't seem like that to have the same problems like that I have with Headland, where it's kind of there's not that many contestable villages and it gets kind of stalemated pretty quickly. And I gotta say, like the biggest thing that feels different is that there's only one airport for each player.
What's an
I think
airport?
that changes the map quite a bit.
Can't believe you managed to get a Watson Airport joke in. Oh, but yeah, like that is a huge change. Like, I actually really like that. I'm not a big fan of Ansari War. I realize Thieves Den has call them airports tonight. I realize that Thieves Den has 2 towers now, but I'm not a big fan of putting 2 towers, like one on each side on maps, because it kind of feels like it's really easy to just defend. Like against certain units. Like because I actually really think one important aspect of knights is their ability to just go around and like be like terrorizing your opponent's side of the map. And when there's 2 towers,
Definitely.
and if you can just build a harpy to like defend against it, then
I think even worse is if you can pike balloon defense, like to completely shut down a knight, then uh you get like I think that was the problem of the old like one of the problems of the before the flood was that you'd see like one knight maximum in the early game, and then it would be tech to kind of snipe mages. But spear balloon was just so much more efficient and versatile.
Yeah, knights are way better in this new map, and yeah, spears are just not as good. There's not even like the spear is not even in range to get in the balloon on the first turn it's out, and that's a big detriment for pikes.
Also,
I just want to
what
say
another thing I really like about Headland is that, well, the new one is that uh, which commander you're playing can change massively what options you have available. For example, like I think generally it's better to open vertically on the new Headland, because like if you open horizontally, you kind of get bullied out by the enemy if he goes vertical. But there, like for example, Emmerich can fight off the enemy commander, and that leads to a very good position for him. Which I mean, admittedly, I shouldn't really be revealing the strat, but
But just to clarify, when you say you say so. You think the better way to opening is pulling your CO close towards the enemy tower? Is that,
Yep.
or is it the other way?
Yeah, towards the enemy tower, basically.
Oh, okay. Because I was kind of thinking the opposite. It's like better to go
Yeah,
horizontally.
well, the thing is like, if you're having mid or late game in mind, it's better to go towards your own tower. But the way the early game works out is that if the two commanders meet, then it's the one that goes vertical that kind of wins the fight. And also, you get a bit more money that way, I think.
Huh. That's interesting. I don't think I've played the map enough to know distinctively how that plays out.
There's also the fact that if
Oh,
you,
so I'm gonna interrupt. We are running a little bit behind the time, and you're
all right,
essentially revealing strats at this point. So
that's true. You just stop me.
yeah. All right. I do want to say one thing though. Like Faded Sun's talking about how we're like dunking on the map makers a bit, and it's just like we spent 5 minutes talking about how good your latest map is. So I don't think that's entirely true. But
Yeah, we were dunking on an old map, right?
yeah, close. All right. Well, we'll go to Faded Sun's other map that's in this event. Theft in 19 by 19. So this is like a slightly updated version. The hideout is slightly differently placed, and it's not pre-capped anymore. So that thief opening is very different. You can still go for uh that like early thief wagon. It's like a little bit later now, but it's like still a viable strategy. But
Oh, I don't think the hideout is hideout's like a little further away
Yeah,
from
like the
that
hideout
racks
is
now,
like
so
one
you can't
spot
get into
away
wagon.
you can, but not on the first turn. So you have to build a thief, move it a bit, and then build the wagon, and then you can do a thief wagon play. But and you use the wagon for escaping anyway. That's like kind of the important part. Um,
True. I like this version a lot better. I think it's a lot more balanced. I've said this in the Discord, but I think the last version was pretty P1 favored. This one seems a lot more balanced in comparison, and I just don't think Thief is going to be like the prevalent opening choice, but it's in at least a spot that's where it might be prevalent down the line depending on how the opponent plays.
I, I think a knight just destroys everything early game.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Knight is just way better in this new version as opposed to Thief.
And I mean, I was already doing knight on the previous version, but everyone loves the thieves.
I actually thought the previous version was okay, but I realized that it's one of those situations where you have to make a bunch of very strange choices that aren't obvious early on in order to play like the map at all without falling behind. Like you have to just like not capture villages because you have to understand where the thief will be able to capture, and that creates like this weird scenario of like there's like 3 really easy village captures you can go for early on, but you just don't do it because your opponent has a thief that's gonna capture those like 2 turns from now. You just have to like understand the meta to the point where it's like, oh well, this is like I bet you have to lose on the map a bunch to realize like, oh, this is actually kind of like the more optimal way to play this. And what we have right now is like kind of a bit easier to like kind of get into playing it, but there's still a lot of variety in like the choices that you have. So at least that's my impression of it.
I just want to see someone have a cheese like balloon thief in the early game on the HQ.
On the HQ,
Yeah,
you'd have to make it pretty early.
yeah, I want to see that happen. Because like usually the center is empty early game, right? You just send a thief balloon down there.
I played a game
That is
against.
true. I haven't thought of that. Maybe that's possible.
This was the previous version, but I wonder if it's possible. I played a game against Shu where I thief stole on the stronghold because I had green finger groove to keep it safe. Kind of curious if we're going to see any shenanigans like that, because the stronghold's pretty open. It's definitely a map where
Yeah, you can't give green finger center control on that map.
yeah, definitely one of the maps where the stronghold feels the most vulnerable. I have this pool anyway. So I'm curious if we're gonna see some shenanigans. Like I know Tenri steal on stronghold and then you groove it away is like another play you can do. I'm kind of curious if we're gonna see some like shenanigans with the thief on the stronghold.
I personally, I doubt it, but I'd be interested in seeing it.
I mean, I don't know if anyone's gonna do it, but I want to see it. Is my point. Like, that's another one for the Groove of War 6 bingo. Is like someone gets a stronghold steal with the thief.
Yeah, like that play that Sneaky did last tournament, right? Where he did the Wolfar.
Oh yeah,
That was
that
so
was
sick.
that was
Like
sick.
that was pretty cool. So if we could get another play like that, like I'd be hyped for that.
Yeah, that was a great play. I think I just want to end on like, how do you feel about these maps compared to like the previous events maps?
Maps are definitely less broken than last time, I guess. Cause last time it was there was a bunch of maps where we knew that like favored one player or the other, and that kind of resulted in some kind of weird choice in picks and bans. Like, you wouldn't want to be player two on. I mean, you wouldn't want to be player two on basically 3 of the maps, and then the others were like somewhat even, but it was kind of weird of like when you pick the map you're like pick your poison kind of thing. So I think this time is because there is more flexibility in the openings, we're gonna see less of that. And also
Yeah,
like open season is one of the maps that were not broken.
I guess for me, I didn't play in the previous Groove Awards. This is my first one, so I was spectating the last one, but I didn't play in it, so I can't really say for sure like how this plays versus other ones. But I do like the variance in the map pool for this one. I think there's a lot of different styles you can play on each map individually. I think I do like how there's longer timers and they're kind of like longer games, so I think it helps my style personally. Uh, and yeah, I think they're all pretty fun to play on. Like I don't think there's like any map that has like a very distinct advantage for P1 or P2. And yeah, I really like this map pool.
I'd say there's no like small map this time around, but I
Yeah,
mean
Yeah,
there's
they're
definitely
also
there's no one racks map is a thing.
they're also like harder to uh, kind of foolproof against competitive play, I guess. Like
Yeah, I
Safe
think
Haven, we took a while before breaking it, but we did break it.
yeah, I think there's a thing about one racks where it might like I'm sure someone will make a one racks map that really just holds up across like forever, but I think it's so hard because the choices are so limited that you're going to figure out what the optimal plays are.
Oh, my bad. um,
So I guess well, I guess we're just gonna go quickly over the players and we'll take a quick look at the bracket. Now that we're done with maps, so open up players. All right, so in order of seeding, what we have right now is Shu is number 1. Zeronix on 2. We have Base Front at number 3. Tiki Dragons 4 seeds. 5th seed is Red Gems. 6th seed Saikoya. Then you have ttam at number 7. Searing Blight at number 8, MVAKM at number 9, Sergeant at number 10, Wiener Code at number 11, 12th player is Spodius, 13th player is Sedchun, 14th player Pediance, 15th player is Araya, and 16th player is Corpse Rule. So I would say there are names there that I wouldn't have expected. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, there's definitely some newer players. I think there was a couple of issues with like how we did the ranking for the ladder season last season. So there was a whole bunch of people that had played like 1 or 2 matches that qualified. And those issues are solved now. Like, we're not going to run into those again. But it did mean there was like an easier way to get into the tournament for a few people.
Yeah,
but
there's a few like prominent names that aren't listed there that I wish we could have seen. Like Alsame didn't really participate in this one, and
there's
we're not
some
seeing
people
Time
that
Key.
didn't enter.
Right, yeah, that didn't enter. I wish I could have seen them for this one.
yeah, that would have been cool. I think Alsame, I've spoken to Alsame fairly recently. They're doing some other stuff right now. So
He's still memeing around from time to time.
yeah, we still hear from him. I mean, I've talked to him fairly recently, I want to say. I mean, we're also... Time is such a weird thing right now, and that, like I say, recently, and then 6 months have passed, actually, but... War basically saying he doesn't like Wargroove right now. I mean, that's fair enough. Like, this game is not for everybody, and there's definitely been times when we've had metas that aren't very fun to play in, so... And Time Key making the point of Monster Hunter is too strong. So while we're on the topic of that, Spacefront, I do believe, still has not actually confirmed registration. So I'm kind of curious about this because if they don't enter, that does shift all of the matchups, because they're such a high seed that if they go out, then and we're not just going to give a bye to the person that would have played them. That isn't very fair either.
So everyone who's like 4th seed and below would get shifted up a seed, and then
Yes.
Shu gets a bye. Is it?
Yeah, so Shu would get a bye, which is kind of comical at this point. I think Shu mentioned it on Discord, is that so many people just refuse to play Shu. They'll actually just take the loss rather than play him. The Shu factor, I guess we could call it.
Yeah, if there's one thing, I kind of hope we don't see Shu win again. That's kind of my objective, but with the seeding right now, I'm on the wrong side of the bracket, so...
Yeah, I did not want to play Shu. Like, I don't want him anywhere near my bracket, so I'm happy that I got moved.
Well, if
even though
if Spacefront goes out, then both of you are on Shu's side of the bracket.
that is true, that part kind of sucks.
So I don't know if both of you want to just desperately message Spacefront right now and ask him to sign up.
No, I'm fine with that.
I guess like one criticism or like...
Oh no, actually, sorry, I was wrong. Sorry, ttam, you would be on the opposite side of the bracket from Shu, if that happened. But Saikoya would move over to the other side.
Oh well, then that's perfect.
I guess one thing that would have been cool is like, I don't know how you would have done it, but if we had like some players in reserve that could have filled the spots if top 16 players didn't show up. But I don't know how you do it, but
yeah, I mean,
I do think it sucks that some people in the top 16 get a bye or don't get a match first round.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in this time around we had the issue of like we were struggling to fill the ladder qualifiers. So like having a fill, like, I mean, we also had people drop out. So Pediant didn't play any matches in his ladder qualifier. He got 2 byes. The first was because someone couldn't schedule, and the second was someone had something come up with their job and was going to be busy for this month coming up. So, I mean, I still think Pedian's a really strong player and deserves to be here, but we definitely had issues with like actually filling the top 16. So yeah, I think what you're saying is right though. We should look at a system of passing on the qualifier to the next person, like that spot. But I also think that we're in a position where it's less likely we're going to have people drop out like this again because the game's been out long enough to the point where people who are invested are more likely to stay invested as opposed to like, people who played for like 1 year and then were like, actually, I just want to move on to something else. That's going to happen, but I think as people stick around for longer, they're more likely to stick around. I mean, I could be wrong on that. That's just kind of like my gut feeling.
I think that's a fair assumption.
But all right, so we're gonna do a quick look at this bracket, even though it might very well be different in 24 hours. So matches here: Shu versus Corpse Rule. I mean, no offense to Corpse Rule, but I feel like if I had to put money on it, I would put money on Shu.
Are you putting
Yeah.
it on the screen or?
Not on the
Sorry to
stream,
interrupt.
but I'm looking at it.
Oh, okay.
People can go to the event page and look at the bracket. Actually, that is the thing. But
I'm gonna send it to you. Hang on.
Yeah, I think me personally, I think Shu is the favorite coming in. Definitely.
I think Shu is
it says
Shu is
that.
probably the favorite to win the entire event.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
very few
and
like if Shu could have been against basically anybody in first round, and I'd put money on Shu. So if Corpse Rule listens to this, I hope you don't take it the wrong way. It's very much I think Shu is like gonna tear through a few people in this bracket. And you're not
yeah,
an
I mean,
exception
not
there.
only is Shu like a really strong player, but he's also maintained like his active role. Like a lot of the other top players just haven't been as active lately, so they may be coming in here a little rusty.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for like the Zeronics and Red Jams, and even I guess Sneaky a little bit, is that they have been less around recently, so they might be a little rusty or might not have as much time to prepare for the maps.
That's
Which
fair.
means it's basically anyone's game to take down Shu.
The
Yeah.
world versus Shu.
Yeah, it's the world versus Shu, right?
All right. Well, we'll keep going. I'm looking forward to seeing Shu's matches across this tournament. The next Searing Blade versus MVAKM. I think this is gonna be a really close game. They're both very good players.
Yeah, and I think they're actually good at different things, so it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I think I would give the advantage to Searing Blight if I had to choose between the two, but I think MVAKM has definitely been one of the most active players in terms of like practicing. So it's possible they know the map pool better coming into it than Searing Blight. But Searing Blight has also seen quite a bit lately. So
It's funny because
yeah,
Steering Blight is was kind of worried that he had to fight MVAKM.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one then. I'm not gonna pick either player. I think they're both like pretty evenly matched. So
I think it's a matter of like how long does the game last? Because if I think they are pretty evenly matched, but MVAKM is kind of all in on early game. So if Sering Black can like find his footing and survive, then he's got a good shot. I think
okay.
it also means that the map decision, the commander decisions are going to impact the match quite a bit.
All right. Well, let's keep
I
going.
think
I have
that was
to.
interesting.
Sorry. All right, you make your point, and then we'll move on. I have to go fairly soon. So
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say I think what's interesting about that matchup is that I think they're both like super hyper aggressive. Um, so so when you see both them like face off against each other, it might be like just a straight up brawl.
Oh,
It's
those
true
games
that
are
they're
fun.
both very
I love those
aggressive,
games.
but I guess Searing Blight kind of is not like entirely only early game. He's like got that. He's sometimes got that moment in the middle of a game where he decides, "All right, now I'm going all in," and he does. It's pretty scary to fight.
Okay,
Uh,
next match. Sneaky Dragon versus Sechun.
ooh, that's.
This is the most hype match for me for round.
It's pretty hype. I mean, you've got two really like big names in the community, both of them very skilled. Sneaky not prepared as much this time around, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's true. That's the reason I wouldn't be so sure like come out on top. If it was like last tournament, I would have said sneaky personally, but no, I'm not. I'm like 50-50.
I'm very curious though. I actually am really looking forward to this match. This is gonna be so good. This is I mean, this could have happened at a later stage in the tournament. Wouldn't have been surprised, but yeah, getting first round. I don't know what's gonna happen again because I think Sneaky's a really strong player when he's kind of got that Batman thing, right? He like prepares a lot and like he can take down like basically anyone. So yeah,
I do think this map pool doesn't favor sneaky as much as the last one did. Like lethals, lethals are kind of harder to come by, or CO lethals rather, are hard to come by more longer games.
yeah. Although I mean, it's still
I
Sneaky
mean,
Dragon, right? He can still do those plays. So like he could
you
get
can bet. You can bet I'm gonna get lethal at least once this tournament.
oh well. Let's keep going. Red Gems versus Spottius.
Oh, this is another one I could
Oh,
see going either way, and
other
I think this is like the best matchup playstyles wise, because like Red Jams has this playstyle where he'll like try to reduce the amount of chaos as much as possible, whereas Spottius is like he plays for chaos to create chaos and like have this weird unpredictable board state where anything can happen. I think it's gonna be super fun.
yeah. Personally, give the advantage to Red Jams. I think he seemed really solid in the qualifiers. Although I think his openings are a little too personally, but I think Red Jams is just gonna to close this one out.
I'm actually gonna put it on Spottius this time. I mean I respect Red Gems a lot. He's a really strong player, but I think he's been studying a lot recently, which has impacted his time. So I think Spottius has just been able to put a bit more time in recently and get some practice in. So I think that's gonna give him the edge. But
Did Red Gems confirm his spot?
yes, it's only Space Front.
Okay, cool.
I mean, also, this is the point where the bracket could change, so we're speculating over something that might not happen. All right, Zeronix versus Arya next. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone to
It's
say that Zero is gonna win.
kind of. I mean, I guess it'll be a good. I'm still gonna be watching the game very intensely for like check out how prepared Zeronix is. But I think it won't be too much of a surprise the result. It's like
I
I've played Arya a few times. Arya's pretty good. I
oh,
think she
really.
can possibly put up a good fight here. Yeah, Zeronix is favorite.
yeah, I mean, I'll always say Zero because I've only ever taken one game off Zero, and it was with a mod. It was in Project Groove. I haven't taken a game off like regular Wargroove of Zero in like the 2 years that I've been playing. So I always put Zero as the favorite, and he got so close to winning last time, like the whole thing last time. So, but people are saying Arya
I've
is
never
this.
won a game versus Veronica
Yeah, I
either.
guess Arya could be like the Spadius of last tournament, you know?
Would be the sleeper that just kind of comes in.
I mean, to be fair, there is a. I haven't seen Zeronix around like at all.
So
So
I have
no idea how much he's
um
been able to prepare.
he has been playing,
Oh
so
really? Okay.
but
Oh,
I won't go into it more
secret
than that.
strats.
Uh,
But he's been around. I've been chatting to him a bit, so I'm kind of
he
curious.
stopped
That's
practicing with me.
interesting that you say that.
I almost took him out last time.
That is true. Yeah.
All right, let's go on the next one then. Ttam versus Starjan. Ttam, how do you feel about this matchup?
Stargent is definitely like I think he's gotten a lot. I've definitely seen this spike in his play like the last 2 weeks. Like I think he's gotten a lot better. I think it's going to be a good matchup. I do think I am the slight favorite, just going off like our ladder results. But he's definitely like giving me a good run for my money on my matches with him.
I think it's really gonna depend how many golems we see on the map. But
Maybe I'll pick Sigrid too. Who
right,
knows? I don't know.
of course.
All right. Well, I'm
I
gonna
do think,
I'm
do
gonna
think
cheer for my boy though. I'm gonna cheer for Starjan. Like I mean, Ttam, I do think you're right. Like I do think you have the slight edge, but Starjan's improved a lot. Like a lot
Yeah,
over the past year. So I'm kind of curious to see how that works out.
yeah,
I'm a
Stargent
Stargent
also
fanboy. Any? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
he's also having like a similar situation with like Spadia's last tournament, where like nobody really knows exactly where he is, but like where he stands. But you know, we know he's definitely pretty good.
Yeah, he did beat Sechin in the Swiss
That's
qualifiers.
true. He did do that.
Yeah. All right. Next one, Spacefront versus Pedian. So, I mean, the first of all, Spacefront needs to confirm his place in the tournament. So, if that happens, so we'll actually have this match. I haven't seen Spacefront in a long time, and I don't know if anyone else has. So I feel like this is the situation with you guys talking about Zeronex, where like I don't know if he's played the game in 4 months.
I think like Space Front is known for like having the most refined, like perfect openings, but that takes time to research, right? So he won't have that going for him potentially. And there's also the fact, but I think Space Hunt is also one of these players who's got one of the most solid just fundamentals. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think when I was watching Pedian's matches in this qualifiers, like Pedian seemed to have like the openings down pretty well, and that could give him a big advantage going into the first round.
Yeah,
So
I
could be a
think
toss up round one.
Space Front doesn't play very well from behind, I feel. So, and like preparation kind of dictates if you're ahead or behind out of the early game. So I think if they fight and Space Front isn't prepared, Pidient has a pretty good chance of taking him out. Like he just has to not pick the same map twice.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and maybe I didn't play in the last tournament, but I would think that the meta has shifted a little bit. So maybe like if you bring styles you did
It's
last
true.
tournament, it may
He
not
was
work.
he was a Koji main, but he
Oh, that's
also
a
had
good
a
point.
very
Yeah,
good break. So I don't know.
I mean, it's gonna be like Ash will still go spear balloon to this day, like, and he kind of makes it work as well. So I guess you can bring old styles, but yeah, I wonder if Spacefront. I mean, Spacefront has to confirm. I'm just gonna double check that right now, so I don't look at a tool saying that he has to confirm when he's already done it. Let's
I hope he joins, but I'm pretty sure my bracket looks way easy. He doesn't. So I have mixed feelings.
he hasn't yet. He's still got 24 hours. We pinged him today. He got pinged yesterday as well. We'll do it one last time tomorrow. And I mean, other people are welcome to message him as well. I know there's a France Discord too.
Yeah, I already did.
Okay. But I mean, if it's the case that he's moved on, then like we'll go with 15. Everything will change, and none of what we just talked about will matter. But well, it was still an interesting topic. And I guess we'll wrap it up with this Saikoya against cleaner codes.
I mean, easily me, right?
I would take the advantage here. Oh, cleaner code is really good. Like none of my matches versus him were easy at all. So I think this is a good matchup.
Yeah. I think like I've been back. I mean, over time, I've practiced quite a bit against cleaner code, and we've learned a lot fighting each other. Like I've learned how to deal with witches and and golems, and like he learned it. I don't know what he learned, but I'm not in his head, so I can't tell. I still think I have the edge, just because generally in practice, I tend to win more, but that's about everything I can say. We get
I
along
don't
pretty
think he's
well.
practiced that much lately, as far as
Yeah,
I can tell.
that too.
I think he
But
seems to have been quite busy recently, so
I will not confirm nor deny that.
okay. Well, I guess we're gonna find out. I'm excited. I guess it comes down to, does Spacefront show up? I mean, we put a thing in the trailer. He does show up in the trailer, so it'd be sad if he didn't show up for the actual event, but I guess we're gonna find out. And I mean, War makes a good point. Is like Spacefront doesn't his strength is in asynchronous play, and I think he's never been a fan of the timed formats that we run. So it could very well be that like this is like last event was his last tournament. More interested in doing other things now.
Yep.
And if that's the case, then all of the bracket is different. So Shu will get a bye, but I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I'm pretty sure Shu is gonna make it at least the top 4. That's my kind of like looking at this bracket or a potential new bracket. I think Shu being in top 4 is my prediction.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know. I'm gunning for Shu this tournament.
Okay, well I guess we're gonna see. I mean, that's one of the storylines of this tournament, right? Is like who are the newcomer, like the strong newcomers gonna be? Like, will the old guard hold up? Like, is someone gonna finally take Shu down? It's been a year now since the last time. Like, he won Groove of War 4, and that was about a year ago. So it's been.
Yeah. I don't think Shu is like unstoppable. Like I have been able to take some games off of him, but he does let me choose the map and position. So I don't really put much weight into it.
And he doesn't time you out.
Right. Yeah.
It is funny because I have an okay-ish record against Shu, so like he can definitely be beaten, but it does come down to like how serious is Shu taking the match, and like how prepared everybody is in general. So yeah, I'm curious. I want to see some hype matches, and I want to see someone like if Shu wins this again, I at least want to see people like get really close to beating him.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think
I
there's going to
mean,
be a good
every
race for like
every
the
time
top
he
four.
won, it was really close.
Yeah, that is true. All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. It's 2 hours, actually almost exactly. I need to get going, so yeah, we're gonna do another podcast after the finals, or maybe no, it'll be after the finals. I'm just thinking schedule wise. So, and this event's gonna be like shorter than other Groove of Wars, so it's just the top 16. It's just gonna run straight through. So yeah, we'll be back in about a month's time, and we'll be talking about the finals. Maybe have the finalists on, go over some matches. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be good. Um, Thank you both again for coming on, ttam. It was a pleasure having you. This is your first time on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for letting me be on. It was fun.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Saikoya, thank you as well for joining.
Always.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. This will be up on YouTube. I'll probably try and get up tomorrow. So before the event, anyway, like before it all kicks off. The trailer for anybody who's watching this live, the trailer's up on YouTube. I think that's actually released now. So
Yeah, it should be out.
people that'll probably be up on Reddit and probably get a tweet out about it fairly soon. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Go check out the trailer. It'll be up on the Groove of War YouTube. Yeah, I look forward to this event. I'm really excited. I probably won't cast too much stuff live in the early rounds. I'll try and get as much as I can in the later rounds live. 8 sets a week is quite a lot of, especially when we've got hour-long chess timers. On a lot of the maps. So, but I'll try and do a whole bunch. I'll do everything. All the replays will be done. I'm actually seriously considering just like discounting games that people didn't save the replays for. So yeah, I guess like people should at least ask a friend to hold the lobby open when they start each game or something along those lines, just so nobody forgets. But yes, we're gonna wrap this up. So I'll see you all in a month's time.
Yep. I mean, yeah.
See ya.
Awesome. All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you all for. Yeah, I mean, I'll be live again this week with. I'll probably be doing replays as they come in. So, all right, take care.